I love connecting. But, when I was in some of my darker times, like, it sounds weird to even talk about, but like, not wanting to be like almost like sneak in, do your work, sneak out, and not have that connection, but that's really what you gotta do is push yourself to be connected. Like, you need to take a break. It's healthy to take a break. Like, it's not all business, all work, all the time. You'll burn out so fast.
Hey, it's Nikki Llewellyn Gregory, and you're on Gut Plus Science. You're in for a fast-paced, storytelling, action item-rich leadership growth experience. I hope you make this podcast a habit. I consider it a leadership mentoring tool. Learning together makes us better together, and that is how we change the world around us. Let's get to it. Hey, it's Nikki back on Gut Plus Science, and today's guest is Amanda Medlen. She's the CEO of IDO Incorporated, a visionary leader in workplace strategy and design with deep expertise in creating environments that enhance productivity and well-being, a place that people love to come to work and collaborate. Amanda blends innovation with sustainability to shape the future of workplaces, workspaces today. I am so excited to dig into a topic that she is passionate about, that's near and dear to her heart, that she's got a lot of stories around. And we are calling this conversation Being in Community with Others, and really talking about the importance of that and sharing some of the backstory of Amanda's journey around community collaboration and the key people in her life. And so, Amanda, welcome. Let's talk about the importance of being in community, and of all topics, why this topic is the one that you were like, I'd love to dive into that one.
Well, I think there's just so much in the culture right now about like, you can do it or, I've got this. But to be honest, I mean, that's part of nature. We were wired to be connected. We need one another. And that's why there's all those disciplines too. I won't go too deep into it, right? But you got to kind of know your lane too and what your specialties are and then who might be able to assist and make those connections because you can do so much better together when you form those relationships and connections than in any one individual.
Yeah. And, you just reflect on the times where that one yes that you gave to show up at that one place and the person that was there, right? And
Oh, absolutely.
it's so easy to like cancel those because it's like, oh my gosh, I've got too much going on. So, kind of talk about your mindset on saying yes to those opportunities, making that a habit, not letting those things fall off your calendar because they are important.
Oh my gosh. Where do I begin with that? I mean, first, when you were saying that, I was like, I have the perfect story for that. And so, this is a Women in Business retreat through the Indie Chamber that happens every year. I'm an advocate for it now, and that's actually how I met Jennifer Knotts, who is our CFO. We work closest together, but it's like all day Thursday, half a day Friday. It was the last day, last event. Me and my business partner Lee were heading towards one table. I see somebody coming in the corner of my eye. I'm like, "Oh, you guys can sit here. We'll go over there." Well, I'm sitting across from Jennifer, who wasn't even going to show up to that event because she had so much work to do. She'd been with her company for so long and was just stressed. I think it was one of those overworked, underappreciated situations. And we sat at that table. I sat across from her. She was talking. I was listening. I was making notes. And then I said, "Hey, started asking questions. That's part of it too." And I said, "You're listing all these things that you do, but what are your specialties? Like, what's your niche?" And she said, "Accounting and finance." And my eyes got so big and my jaw dropped. And she's like, "Why?" I go, "We are in need of that." Like, I literally had a meeting set up for that following week on Tuesday with a recruiting firm because I can hire designers and people like that. But accounting and finance, we just found out that the person we're working through a succession plan at the office. And I'd asked, I said, "Yeah, Jane, what's your plans? What's your succession?" And she goes, "I'm glad you asked. I plan to retire at the end of Q2." And so there's all this that was just thrown. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, we're working through this ownership transition. We're trying to learn all that. And now we're saying we need an accounting and finance person." And so that's how we met Jen. I mean, we brought her in to talk with myself and the previous owner, the founder of our company, and then ended up having lunch with Jean, who is our part-time accounting manager, and Lee, my now business partner. And I mean, the rest is history. She's been with us for about 3 years now. And she'll tote on me and say, "You have no idea. This job means so much. It's my dream job. I needed this. I needed you." And I'm like, "It's reciprocal, girlfriend. Like, I don't know how I would handle all this without you and that support."
Yeah. Wow. What a story to open up with, like, in saying yes to showing up at this place, right? But we're all busy, right? But making sure that we're saying yes to those opportunities to be in community, and then just letting a lot of the universe do its magic.
Oh, yeah, I'm totally that was total divine intervention, like, and how that even came, and I just know that there's numerous stories, I can't think of them all specifically, but there'd be times where I'd be really stressed. I've battled anxiety and depression in my past. I've had some so I've learned all that and how to navigate that. But, one thing with when I was talking to a professional, they just said, "You're gonna get to a point where you just kinda wanna duck and cover, like hibernate, right? You feel like you can't get out or you don't have enough time to do this," but he's like, "You gotta push yourself to get out. You need to be with people. You need to do some of those normal things." And I tell you, some of those events is where I met it wasn't even a direct connection. It was like I knew this guy who introduced me to this person, and now we do work with that company, with that business. And so it's never just like I met him and we do work with it's more like he knew this guy who knew this guy who needed this, and so it's just all that weaving of connections is what it is.
I have so many things in my mind right now. So one that I want to go a little deeper on is, for our own mental health and well-being, being around people and in community is something that really helps us as humans. And like you said, we were built for that. I want to go deeper on that. I'm going to come right back to it. The other is sometimes leaders, there's somebody listening right now that's like, I don't even know the places to get involved in community. How do I even find those? Like, what is the path to sit at that table next to my next best connection? So, we're going to come right back to that. And then you had talked about like the depth of conversation, like how, versus just small talk. Like, how do you open up conversations that really find opportunities to build relationships and
Mhm.
advance, the future? So, from a mental health well-being standpoint, being in community, what else would you like to say there around just inspiring leaders on how to think about that? Like from a building this as a muscle inside of you, you have to do this for your own good, right?
Sure. And I think a lot of it is just being curious about the other people and being open-minded and ask questions. Like, I know it's easy to focus and say, well, guess what I did or guess, and be very self-focused. But I think you just have to be inquisitive and just have a very natural desire to get to know the person across from you and what they do. And you don't ever know where it's going to connect. I mean, some businesses and some relationships didn't form from that initial meeting of because of where we worked or what roles we had, but rather we had a connection with like a certain age of kids or youth sports or women's groups or, hobbies such as baking or, landscaping or any of that.
Yeah. And what does it look like from, the time of meeting a person, at the thing you said yes to, learning about these things that you have commonalities, but then the follow through of nurturing and building that relationship. Can you walk us through that?
Well, I'm a note taker. Like I rely on notes so much. So I mean, I have notes on my phone, like my contacts within the phone, so and so's mom or so and so parent of a sports team. I always put, some notes of our conversation or like put the names of their kids or if we talked about certain things. And I do that with LinkedIn too. Like I always make sure like I don't just accept the connections. I need to have some sort of background on how we know. So like adding notes. Like it was good meeting you at this event on this day and we discussed this like I look forward to our next conversation. So, because there's been numerous times I'll be out and I'm like, I know her. And so I'm like, looking in LinkedIn and I'm reading my notes. Oh, yes, we had that connection through, the Smiths and it was because of this. And so then I can elaborate more on that conversation.
Yeah, that's great. Tell us more about some of these like systems that you have because one system is, you take notes on the people that you meet or on your LinkedIn connections. I think that's powerful. Many of us, it's like, how did I meet them? Or gosh, it's been, so taking notes as a system. Talk about like your systems for getting out and being in these rooms regularly. Like, what does that look like versus like how to advance the relationship, the cadence of touches? Like, tell us more about that.
I think a lot of it's just organic, but I think as far as finding those relationships, you really got to understand yourself first, I think, and figure out what opportunities are out there because there's an organization for everything, whether that's through your profession, whether that's through your religion, intramurals, anything that you like. I mean, if you're like a chess player or a euchre player or a trivia or, whatever, finding those groups and being involved, and you're going to find already have commonality because you're both in that same group but I love, like, community service and serving and volunteering as well. So I think you're gonna meet some like-minded people through there. But I think just, following up with them, especially if you meet them that initial time, I have like a reminder in my calendar every week to like kind of touch base. Who did I meet this week? Have I connected with them? And I do keep, we keep a log. I mean, for the work purposes of like, I talked to this person on this date about this. Follow up is in 2 weeks, whatever. Just being intentional with it. No cold calling or anything like that. But just making sure you connect in some way, whether that's email, through LinkedIn, whatever method that is. Even just with, I'm thinking work wise on this one. I kind of have some calendar invites where I put, the note or the emails in there, and I said, okay, I left a voicemail or I followed up on this day, and then I move that reminder out a week or two, and it just keeps top of mind. I can move it or kind of keep notes of, because you don't want to like bombard people, but you want to make sure to give them time, but also you don't want them to think that you forgot about them.
Yeah. What advice do you have around filtering your time, saying no to certain things? Because I don't think we want to give the message of like, say yes to everything, get away from your priorities and get overwhelmed. But like you're coming to this as like what you've learned in your journey is the importance of prioritizing being in connection with others in the community, let alone the team that you're working alongside out in the community and building relationships outside of that. But how do you encourage leaders that are listening to filter or what to say yes to versus no?
Yeah, again, here I think you have to know yourself. And I definitely have gotten in some of those seasons where I'm just like, yes, 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 this is all good stuff. But then you know what? Like I couldn't do it. I wasn't taking care of myself. So part of that for me is healthy, like exercising. Like it's really just like walking and having time even to myself to rest, do some of those activities. I'm an avid baker. I love sharing that with people. So I need to make sure, and I can tell when I get off if I don't have an equal balance of that. Like I need to have these regular rhythms in my life.
Absolutely.
And you can't be like, if you it's great to be involved in all these things, but can you do it really well when you have like 10 things? You probably need to invest in like 2 and do them really well.
Yeah. Can you share a couple of examples of like organizations that you've joined? You know, how you said like pick two, maybe it's an association. And because of the association, like it then gives you like structure for like, you have like a monthly lunch and that becomes a system and you see people and you regularly build a relationship through that. Any insight there?
Yeah, I know that I made questions because when I kind of got down a pike where I was having some kind of mental health issues, I kind of made a list of what I had. I'm like, no, I'm keeping that. I'm keeping that. This one I could get rid of. So I had to kind of turn the dials a little bit. But then as I kind of changed some of them up and figured out ways to, find someone to take my spot or whatever, then I asked questions on the new ones. Okay, like what is the meeting cadence here? Okay, you meet twice a month. Is that in person or is that virtual? And they're like, every other month it switches. I'm like, I can handle that. Because if you get too many of those in-person ones, I mean, I prefer the in-person ones, but if too many, that takes away time from family and different activities as well with the travel time back and forth. So I've got a handful of organizations, but there's some that I go deeper into where I'm like finding a lot more connections or, hey, this really fills my cup. And then there's some where it's like it's good, I'm learning from them, but I don't want to like dump a bunch of time there. Like I just give it, you think of like cups, like, okay, that one gets a penny, this one gets a quarter. Like I'm gonna spend more time here. And they change. So it's constantly evaluating what am I getting from this? Does this fulfill me? It's not just about like what am I getting out of it necessarily as far as like relationships, business, that, but it's like, does this give me joy? Do I look forward to going to that? Or I'm like, oh, I've got another one of these meetings like later this week. Like I really don't want to go. I mean, that's kind of a sign that maybe something needs to change.
Right. Yeah, totally. And I think you just brought up a great point that so much of connection and getting out in community is the service that we bring to others, right? It's like this like win-win of we're asking deep questions to understand this person and how we might be able to help them or finding synergies to work together. It's so much it's not a one way, it's definitely a two way of give and take, which I think is any healthy relationship. I'm curious how you guide this for your team because a lot of what you're sharing and you had shared with me before and you brought up today, your personal journey with some mental health challenges that you work through and finding that like being in community and relationship building was like core to your well-being and you're real passionate about that and you have a lot of this I guess these systems that you use to build these relationships as the CEO of your company. How do you lead that for others? Like, how are you modeling the way for your team members and helping them to do the same?
Sure, I know when we were going through some like leadership transitions and kind of reevaluating meeting structures and things like that, we've made some tweaks and we've had some like for instance, we have a reoccurring meeting every Thursday. It's set for an hour. It could be a half hour. It could be as long as it needs to be, but it's an all team meeting. And we kind of like go around the table. We talk about and we give everybody an opportunity to talk at every level. And we kind of judge like, hey, where are you on we have a chart kind of like on workload stress level. How am I feeling? And collecting that information. But then we also want to know, is there something that you're doing that you're just doing that all the time and you need a break? Like these requests are driving me nuts and I want to work on something else. Or, hey, I'm really struggling with this. I could use some help. So it's just a time for us to talk about if you have lessons learned, like, or we give some of the younger designers a chance to like, hey, what are you working on? Let's show us what you're working on. And then they get kind of that confidence growth and building. But it's really just a chance for everybody to be in there, give them the opportunity to talk, gauge where they're at, ask questions, and they're starting to get more confident in, like, talking and speaking up and saying, like, I've been past this, but I'm struggling." Like, it's okay to say, like, "I don't get it." Like, "I need help." And so it's an opportunity to do that, or if there's, like, a more senior designer who is just, like, taxed and they're like, "Hey, guys, I am strapped here. I'm about ready to bust at the seams. Can somebody take this or can somebody take that?" And a lot of times you'll be surprised that somebody just throws their hand up like, "Oh, I can do that. I love to do that." So you're making those connections with the work and the idea is that you're not stressing out any one person, you're working together collaboratively as a team.
Yeah, I love that. I know you had said, it was almost, as equal in our original conversation, as equally important to you getting out in community, being in relationship with others, and collaborating well, and I think you're taking us down that path right now about, like, the team meeting and what that's there for, to ask for help, to help each other understand really, as a human, how you doing right now? What other frameworks or systems are you using to help lead your team to collaborate well?
I was just thinking too, we have that every Thursday because I think before it just used to we were at kind of different campus sites, so it's very segregated. So now when people didn't always report to this main home office, but we do have a space for everyone now, so that helps with that kind of feeling more like it's all our space, it's all our business. But then the once a month, that Thursday meeting kind of grows, and we have a larger structure where we start talking about we have open book management, so we're looking at the finances, we're looking at the ins and outs, and kinda doing that education as well, with business acumen and just being transparent with the books and where we're at and, what things make that better, like, billable time and administration and balancing our time with business development. But also we go through like networking, like who are we talking to? What projects are we looking at? So, if they're kind of just with one client per se, they still have an idea of the company as a whole and who we're talking to. So they're out and they hear of X company, they'd be like, oh, okay. Amanda spoke with so and so last week and talked about this. And, we'd love to work with you, kind of adding upon those conversations and relationships.
Yeah, I love that. The word that keeps coming to mind around all of this is intentionality.
Mhm.
Intentionally working on making sure that your well-being and mental health is solid through you had mentioned, like, exercise, kind of feeling out how am I feeling, like, I've been kinda off of that and keeping a litmus test on, like, gosh, this meeting that keeps coming up, it doesn't feel good for maybe something involved in the community, and being intentional on, I know that this meeting, even if I'm not feeling my best, is important. I'm gonna push myself to go, right? Like, there's just a lot of this intentionality. If you were to summarize for us, for leaders listening that might be in "Oh, I'm in a chaotic place right now. I feel disconnected. I just don't feel myself," whatever. What is your best advice around staying intentionally focused on priorities that make you your best?
Yeah, with that, and then when you were talking, it made me think too, another part, we're talking about collaboration and intentionality a lot. One of the biggest parts of that is communication. So, we're trying to get it so that everybody, no matter if it's, sharing the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever, how you're feeling, like we don't need to go around and pass the stick or anything, but just communicating. We raise issues if there's something, the disturbance, I'm like, because they know, if something's brought to me, the first thing I'm gonna be like is if you talk to them about it. Like, you need to have that conversation first before we start getting overwhelmed, getting upset or whatever. You need to ask more questions, figure out and come to a solution. And we have a lot of leaders on our team that are pretty sensitive and aware. And we've also done some additional leadership training so that they can also learn some of the like softer skills, people skills of awareness. I'm even have a wonderful opportunity through a friend to do mental health first aid training next week. So I'm really looking forward to that. Having been passionate, I've gone through that, just learning to be more empathetic and asking questions. Like you really like instead of just being like, Julia's having a real like, what is your problem? She's like really angry today or not in a good mood. I'm like, it's more like, what's going on with you? Let's ask more questions. Let's see if she'll open up. You don't know if there's family health issues or, you just really don't know what people are dealing with. So I think it's just not jumping to conclusions. Again, being inquisitive, asking questions, trying to get to the root of it a little bit without prying. I always tell them, I was like, I'm not afraid to approach somebody, be like, hey, like, I feel that you're off. If there's something going on that you want to talk about, I'm here for you. But if it's personal and you don't want to go there, I'm fine with that too. But I just wanted to let you know, like, I'm concerned about you. You don't seem your normal self. If you need something, please come to me and ask. And then also with the communication, it's just with the workload because we have lives outside of work as well. And there's a more important things than work. Like we want to work hard and do a good job. But there's also your mental well-being, your family, your connection. So, we don't want you to miss any of those important activities. If the kids are performing in a play or you want to volunteer at school, like let's talk that out. Let's talk with your team, talk with your manager. How can we make that work? And so a lot of times and there's been a couple instances where somebody on the team, like, is like, "You know what? I'll take that. You go ahead and leave at 3. You get there, you be there for your kid." So we're always communicating and making sure that that's balanced as well.
I love that. What was coming up for me is just the reminder of how fast our world is going with the accelerators of technology, and everything is so efficient and automated. And gosh, wow, I barely even talk to people anymore. It is the kind of wave of where we're going. And what you're reminding us to is like go back to people and prioritizing relationships and take more time to go deeper. The quick check-in of, "Hey, you good? Okay, cool," and move on to the meeting versus, "Hey, I've noticed lately something kinda seems off, and I just wanted you to know I'm concerned. Don't wanna pry or anything, but I wanted to let you know that I'm open to have a conversation. We're here. Like, work is not the most important thing. Like, how can I support you?" Right? Versus just kinda throwing something out to, like, check the box to say, "I noticed," versus really taking the time.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I think a lot of it is just awareness and just letting them know, like, put that gentle thing out there. Because I remember going through like, I love people, I love talking, I love connecting, but, when I was in some of my darker times, like, I remember, like, really not wanting it was just weird it sounds weird to even talk about, but, like, not wanting to be, like, almost like sneak in, do your work, sneak out, and not have that connection, but that's really what you gotta do is push yourself to be connected. Like, you need to take a break. It's healthy to take a break and, like, have a personal conversation with somebody. Like, it's not all business, all work, all the time. You'll burn out so fast.
Oh, well, I think that's your mic drop statement there. That's exactly what tied this all together. So thank you so much for joining today. I'd love to take us over to our lightning round where we get to learn a little bit more about the personal side of you. So one of the things, Amanda, that we've been doing since this show started over 7 years ago is we ask for it's so hard to just pick one, but your favorite book of all time or a favorite recent read. Tell us your book.
Yeah, one that's had a great impact in my life, and it was really during that time that I was first struggling and dealing with the mental health, was Rebecca Lyons. It's called Rhythms of Renewal: Trading Stress and Anxiety for a Life of Peace and Purpose. And so she talks about the rhythms of rest, restore, connect, and create. And so that's just really stuck with me. And when I talked about those things being off, like resting, making sure to restore, do the things that give you energy. For me, it's baking, or when it's nice outside, I love being out, like, planting and, like, landscaping and doing that kind of thing, so
Oh, okay. Well, we'll go down that path of restore. Let's say that you got an unexpected day off. You can do whatever you want and you have whatever budget to do it, but you just have this one day. What would you do to, restore, fill your soul that day?
I think it would be seeing some new places, definitely something outdoors with the family. We have 2 young kids, 13 and 15. I guess they're not young so much to get teenagers now, but I'm just thinking, like, outdoor excursions. Like, we love doing, like, if we go, like, zip lining or canoeing, whitewater rafting, hiking, like, just being outside and doing that together as a family, I think.
Mhm. Okay, then that brings me to your favorite place in the whole wide world to go do those outdoor excursions.
Well, that's kinda opposite because the place I'm thinking of is not where we would necessarily do all those activities, and it'd be my husband and I have been blessed to go to Jamaica twice. There was, 14 years between our 2 visits, and we hope that it doesn't take us that long to get back there again. But we've been to the same resort a couple times and then another but it's just so nice. I mean, you're out there, all you see is scenery. There are no other buildings, at least at the place that we were, and you can do the excursions all inclusive. It's just very relaxing. Oh my goodness, I wanna go back right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited for you to go back. Well, thank you so much. And Amanda, do you want to leave the best way for people to follow up with you if they have further questions, want to connect, build a relationship with you? How do they get in touch?
Sure, I would just say LinkedIn, just Amanda Medlen, you'll see my picture on there. If you wanted to shoot an email, you could do that. Those might get lost. But it's just Amanda, my first name, at IDO Incorporated.com.
Amanda Medlen, thanks so much for joining me on Gut Plus Science and inspiring us to think about being in community with others more often and in deeper ways. I love this episode, and I've got some truth you can act on from the conversation today. Number one, hold yourself accountable to being in community with others. As Amanda mentioned, we were created to be in relationship with other humans. And no matter what technology pops up to help us automate our lives or maximize our time more, we have to get out and be in community live with other people and hold ourselves accountable to keeping those commitments. Number two, take the time to go deeper, ask questions, open ended questions, and dig in to really get to know someone else and find ways to help them. It's all about being in relationship and creating win-win, life-giving relationships. And the deeper we go with the questions, the more opportunity we have to make an impact on those we're around. Number three, lead your team to collaborate well. Consistently reiterate why we collaborate, inspire people to build the habit of reaching out and collaborating with others on the team, and model the way by bringing collaborative activities to help the team learn how to collaborate and apply collaboration in new ways consistently. As we continue to do team meetings, we model the way with new ways in bringing those activities. Love that. Amanda, thank you so much for your inspiration. And we'll see you next time on Gut Plus Science. We just left the world a little bit better. Now, go do something with it.